Eamon Khan here for Seconds Out with Daily Star sport correspondent Chris McKenna. Chris, more elusive than any McKenna I know in a boxing ring. How you doing?
I like to move around, mate. I like to box on the back foot, as I always did when I was a kid. Just a bit better at it now.
Who's better out, you and Wally?
No comment. No comment.
Shared a ring before?
No. We've done some pad work. Did some pad work when we were bored in Saudi, so we do a bit of training to knock heads. But no punches have been traded, so I'll let him have that one.
Sure, him and a few others in the industry were watching this interview. No secrets being shared in the sparring for now. But moving on to Taylor vs. Catterall 2, the rematch, I was one of those people who maybe thought that the momentum had been lost in the fight from the first one, being on Sky Sports and Boxer. That's when we picked it up. For me, it kind of hit and resonated with me, and I got interested in the first press conference. How did you feel about the potential momentum being lost and whether it's been picked up or not?
Yeah, look, the momentum was huge after the first fight because of the controversy, and it was a massive national story. And if they could have just thrown everything at it and got it on straight away, you would be talking back then as a bigger fight than it is now. And that's unfortunate to say. That's not to say it's not a big fight. It's still a big fight. It still had to happen. We still had to get this rematch to get the answers. But yeah, I felt at the time with the controversy, and it was everywhere. It was on phone-ins. It was everybody was going mad over it for the wrong reasons, because boxing was shown in a bad light over it because it was a bad decision, and then some of the stuff that came out following on it, which is totally out of order on Josh Taylor. Yeah, I feel he maybe got a bit fortunate in the decision, but that doesn't mean that he should get abused or his family should get abused, and that was what came with it. But all of that would have led to a massive explosion of interest in an immediate rematch, and unfortunately Josh has lost since then. But again, it was a high profile fight, so maybe his profiles continue to raise. Jack's had 2 fights now, I think, with Matchroom, so he's kind of got a bit more momentum now back, and at least we're getting it. It's just I feel a bit later than it should have happened.
What do you feel? I know that there were matching rights here, which means that Matchroom were able to pick up the fight over Boxer, but Boxer maybe letting this go on their behalf. Do you think that's a bit of a missed trick if it does go off as maybe it might be predicted to, considering what happened in the first fight?
Yeah, I think they missed the trick in not doing it straight away. And I know there was issues, and they tried, and they were unlucky. They had it close. What was that, about a year ago? And Josh Taylor got injured, and then by the time he was fit, things had moved on. The landscape had changed, so they missed the trick. But initially, maybe didn't do all the right things to get it on straight away. But then they did get around to it, and then they were unfortunate. So it's a bit unlucky, but that's the way it works in boxing, and it's not the first time it's happened that a big rematch has ended up with a rival promoter.
You broke the news that Fury vs. Usyk will be shared across the platforms. The announcement was the minute it came, but the fight didn't come. It would have been last weekend. Do you know going forward that it'll be a case that May 18th is the same situation there?
I believe so, yeah. I think that deal is in place, and everything from that February 17 date, obviously including the undercard, sponsors, everything is just been basically moved on to May 18th. So the same will be for the broadcasters. It was interesting this week that Sky have got in on the mix on Joshua Ngannou. I don't think that's on TNT. I haven't seen anything yet, and I haven't heard if it's going to be. So it's interesting that they're now probably in the mix with this new wave of Saudi boxing. Obviously, Sky did stuff with Joshua. They did the Usyk fight over there. They did the Andy Ruiz fight over there. But it looked like they mightn't be in on this new one with Turkey Al-Sheikh and all of that. But they obviously they've got in Hing. And it was going to be interesting to have it on 3 channels. And how that works for each broadcaster, I don't know, because it's diluting buys across different ways. So it was interesting. It was new, but it will all move over to May 18, and we'll get to see how that'll work. I presume there'll be one host broadcaster, and then they'll have their own commentary teams and feeds and stuff.
Sky will be smiling that they've got it, considering they have that past affinity with AJ, and fans who have been watching AJ in the past will know AJ from being on Sky Sports DAZN, although he's led to be believed exclusive to the DAZN platform. Must have been a deal done in the background. DAZN might be kicking themselves a little bit and maybe fearing that Sky will be swallowing up a lot of those pay-per-view buys.
Sky's a monster, and they have that. I know maybe the viewership on the news channel, Sky News Channel, isn't as big as it used to be, but it's still something that's on in a lot of backgrounds. It's on in in the boozers. It's like, so it catches people's attention, and people do associate Joshua with Sky Box Office because a lot of his biggest fights were on there, and it's probably the go-to one. And the other advantage Sky have and TNT have at this is they can advertise it during football. So on obviously the Joshua Ngannou fight's on a Friday, but the week before, whatever Premier League games are on, they will be pumping out next Friday. Don't forget that if there's no football on, make sure you buy the fight. That's getting out into a massive audience, and I think that's where DAZN sometimes has to struggle with that, but they have to do it in a different way, in pumping their out there kind of promotion. But Sky and TNT have that, and I know from how people react when talk about your mates, because they're sitting watching the Man United game or the Liverpool game or the Arsenal game, and they see this come up, and then they're texting, "Oh, I didn't know AJ was fighting." When it's not on those platforms, I think sometimes the fights get a bit missed. So, but Sky is the monster. It's still the biggest channel, and it will get probably the biggest lion's share of that pay-per-view.
I'll bring it back to boxing in a second, but since we're talking about Sky Sports and Liverpool and United and Arsenal, a United legend, you dropped the news that the United legend Wayne Rooney is very much interested in stepping through the ropes. We've seen him with gloves on before, not to, anything that he would like to be brought up again, but we've seen him don a pair of gloves before, but it looks like Misfits Boxing and Wayne Rooney might meet soon, meaning that Wayne Rooney might be in the ring soon.
So they've had discussions. Rooney has been obviously open to stuff in the past. I'm talking in a territory I don't really understand with the Misfits, but and as people will know, I've not always been a massive fan of it. But KSI has spoken before about how Rooney's messaged him saying he wants to do it. Eddie Hearn has spoken before how he's had messages from Rooney saying he wants to get in the ring and do a fight. So I think Misfits reached out to him a few months ago. There was some discussions. Those discussions, I think, were continuing in the last few weeks. And since the story comes out, Rooney's come out and confirmed that he has had talks with Misfits, that they approached him, he discussed it. He says for now his focus is on football management, and that's his main focus. So maybe that is, but if an opportunity doesn't come along in football, then maybe it's something he'll explore in the future.
You got a sense of those conversations. How serious or how close was it?
They were early discussions. It wasn't like they were ready to put pen to paper on anything. I don't think even serious figures were discussed. But it was both sides going, right, what would this entail? Where how big is it going to be? How far can it go? How many fights? What's the kind of thinking? That those were the talks. But I don't think it got to any kind of close that he was ready to go. Misfits, I know, were very keen for it to happen, because why wouldn't you be? Get Wayne Rooney on your platform, whatever you're doing, whether that's football, whether that's you guys doing interviews on Seconds Out. If you get Wayne Rooney on your platform, it's getting massive numbers. Now, I'm no fan of Misfits, whatever, but if they get him, not only are they going to get the audience that they already get, which is a younger audience, a social media, they're going to get the football fans, because the novelty of seeing Wayne Rooney get in a ring would bring them in, not even just into the arena, but the pay-per-views, etc. So it would have been huge, and they were very keen to do something, but at the minute I believe that Rooney is now focused on football, but we shall see how far that goes and if he gets another opportunity in the game.
Finally on this one, I know you're saying there were early discussions, but was there any talk about, or any sense of how much money would be being paid to Wayne, considering how much he earns and has earned throughout his football career? The boxing side might not be as much as what he'd want to do, so maybe it'd be the love of wanting to get in the ring and test himself there. But was there any thought about or discussion about the pay that he would receive?
I can't say that I'm aware of what the figures were. I didn't get that detail in the conversations I had with people. It was just more that they had discussions. Now, obviously, you would think it would still have to be a significant number to get him in the ring. We know it's a passion of his. We know he loves boxing. He did it as a kid, as an amateur. So maybe it was an itch he wants to scratch, maybe, and he might do it for a lesser fee. I've no idea really on what he would do it for. But he's still Wayne Rooney, and he'd know his value. And as I said, it would be he would do massive numbers if he ever did do it. So he would know what he's worth if he was in a ring, whether that's Misfits or whatever it is.
Last topic, that being Conor Benn. He's had his appeal now. That's been confirmed by Eddie Hearn, and I also got it confirmed from Frank Smith as well too, with a decision being thought to be dealt in a couple of weeks' time. Now, that aside, Ben has some suitors in terms of people who wanted to be in the opposite corner to him. Danny Garcia's put himself in the mix. I asked her about Avanesian or Josh Kelly. Those were shot down on the basis of profile, as was Adrian Broner. But you get the sense of if, and it's a big if still, Conor Benn does come through the appeal of anyone being in the opposite corner of that boxing fans will want to see him against. Have you heard anything on that side?
Can't say I have. Well, obviously, my main interest is seeing just how this case is done and just get it sorted. Whatever the outcome is, just get this finished, get it moved on. And if Conor Benn is cleared and there is no kind of more appeals and everything is great, just get on with his career and back in England. If he is cleared and if everything is sorted, and that's what I want, everything just sorted. Don't want any more hanging over it. If the evidence is there or whatever, that the case is just finished, that he's either yes or it's no, get it out in black and white now. That's what we need. So talking about opponents and stuff like this, I don't really understand how you can talk about opponents when we don't know where he's going to be fighting. Obviously, some of these names, I don't know why you would turn down the Josh Kellys and that, because I think they're great fights. Avanesian, great fight. Conor Benn's supposed to be, and is, a big name. So why is that not? I don't know. But I don't think we should be really even discussing opponents until we get everything clear out in the open and we know whether Conor Benn can fight in the UK or not.
Agreed, and a good place to leave it. Chris, pleasure is all mine. Hopefully see you again soon on Seconds Out this year. Pin you down if I have to. Thank you so much appreciate it.